They announced it like it was a surprise party. Pink balloons, diaper cake, cheap champagne. My sister-in-law perched on a faux throne made of wrapped Huggies boxes, smiling like she invented pregnancy. And then my mother clinked her glass and said, "We have one more gift for the baby. And for our growing family." Everyone leaned in. I already knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how wrong. She pulled out an envelope. It was thick, ivory, sealed with a wax stamp like it was 1892. My father, who hadn't lifted a finger during setup, cleared his throat and said, "This is a very special deed." He looked directly at me. I didn't move. My brother opened the envelope like it was a joke. Everyone clapped as he held up a printed page and said, "Wait, what?" And then, grinning, he read aloud, "Title transfer of Unit 4B to me." There was laughter. Tears. My mom hugged him. My dad said, "Your sister's such a blessing." That's when I felt it. A tight, hot pressure in my throat, like I'd swallowed a scream hole. Because Unit 4B was my apartment. I paid every cent of the down payment. I paid the taxes, the HOA, the remodel after the pipe burst. I bought the damn couch they took selfies on. And I had never, not once, signed any transfer of title. I smiled. I actually smiled. Took a sip of the champagne someone had shoved into my hand. Nodded when my aunt whispered, "Such a generous thing you did, honey." I stayed for cake. I complimented the balloon arch. I even took a group photo, the one where my sister-in-law holds the fake deed in one hand and her bump in the other, while my parents beam like they just cured cancer. Then I left. Quietly. No scene. And I remembered everything. I remembered the 2 years I let my brother crash in my apartment rent-free while he got back on his feet. I remembered the night my dad called, asking if I could just add mom to the deed in case of emergencies. I remembered the notary appointment I missed because I had the flu, and how my mom said, "Don't worry, we'll sign for you. It's just paperwork." I remembered being the only one in the family with good credit. The one who co-signed. The one who bailed them out. The one who always said yes. But most of all, I remembered the silence. The way they counted on it. How it had become their currency. How they mistook it for consent. So no, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even ask why. Because I already knew. That night, I made a list. A spreadsheet, actually. Column A, what I paid for. Column B, what they took. Column C, what I would reclaim. At the top, in bold, Operation Enough. My family always called me the stable one, which was code for the one we can quietly drain without asking twice. It started small. A couple hundred here, a rent check there. My mom would say, "Just until Friday," and then forget. My brother, the golden one, the fragile genius, the charming disappointment, borrowed just to hold him over every few months. My dad, he never asked. He just expected. By the time I was 30, I had transferred $219,200 to my family. I only know the number because I finally added it up that night, line by line. Each Venmo, each emergency, each time I got a tax return and they got new appliances. I had files, receipts, screenshots. I had the Zelle confirmation from when I paid off my brother's DUI fines. The same week I ate frozen soup for dinner because I couldn't afford groceries. I didn't say anything then. Just like I didn't say anything when my name magically disappeared from the deed. Because I was taught to feel guilty for noticing. I worked in tech. Mid-level, nothing glamorous. But I budgeted. I meal prepped. I didn't take vacations. I built an emergency fund, which became their emergency fund. I didn't have kids. Didn't get married. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't have space. Emotionally, financially, physically. Every time I got close to building something for myself, someone needed something more urgently. "You're so selfless," my mother used to say. "Not everyone's built to take care of others like you." Like it was a compliment. Like I was born a safety net. The truth is, I didn't mind helping. Not at first. I thought I was being a good daughter, a good sister. I believed, stupidly, that one day, they'd turn around and say, "We see you. Thank you." Instead, they called theft a gift. They wrapped my sacrifice in pink tissue paper and gave it away with applause. But I didn't confront them. I didn't demand it back. Because I had already given them 20 years of free access to me. And now, they'd finally taken enough for me to walk away without wondering if I was wrong. I renamed the spreadsheet repossession. Not just of my property, but of my time, my identity, my capacity for silence. The next morning, I took the day off work and went to the county recorder's office. The clerk wore cat-eye glasses and had a name tag that said, Lynn. I told her I needed a copy of the title for Unit 4B. She tapped for a while, then printed something out. Looks like it was transferred 3 months ago, she said. From you to your mother. Then from your mother to your brother. Both recorded same day. I stared at the paper. Can I get copies of those documents? Of course. It'll be $11.75. I handed her my card. And when she passed me the packet, I saw it, my signature, shaky and misaligned. Wrong date. Wrong pin. Wrong everything. Forged. I didn't react. Not even a blink. Just circled it. Wrote in the margin, nice try. I didn't call the police. I called my lawyer. His name was Jonah, and he'd helped me once during a landlord dispute. Good guy. Direct. No small talk. I emailed him scanned copies of the forged deed, the timeline, and a brief subject line. Title fraud. Need to reclaim property. His response was immediate. I'll handle it. Sit tight. Don't tell them anything. Perfect. That was already my specialty. While Jonah pulled title reports, drafted affidavits, and filed the motion to reverse the fraudulent transfer, I got to work in silence. I started compiling a different kind of list, all the ways I'd been absorbed into their lives. Not just financially, legally, logistically, emotionally. Co-signer on my dad's truck. Emergency contact for my mother's doctor. Power of attorney for my brother when he was in rehab. Secondary on their family phone plan, the one I paid. Every invisible thread between us, I pulled. I scheduled meetings with every institution. Canceled what I'd set up. Removed myself from accounts, bills, authorizations. Some of them looked shocked. You're not married to any of these people? No, I said. Just entangled. I created folders. Physical ones. Labeled them like art pieces. Disentanglement, bank statements, titles, notarized revocations. Receipts, every transfer and transaction I'd ever made for them. You forgot this. Notes, letters, old birthday cards with fake promises. What boundaries look like my updated will. My newly private mailing address. I kept them stacked in a box beside my door. And I didn't tell a soul. Because in my family, the moment you try to reclaim anything, your time, your space, your name, they call it an attack. So I stayed silent, but not passive. By week 3, Jonah had a court date. Title fraud was rarely prosecuted criminally, but civil court? That we could do. With forged signatures, dates, and witness statements, we had a case strong enough to snap bone. Meanwhile, my family floated on in blissful ignorance. Group chats pinged with baby names. My mom sent me a link to a custom doormat that said the 4B family. I didn't reply. Jonah filed an injunction. Within days, my brother got served at the apartment he thought was his. The one I still held the mortgage on. The one his utilities ran through my name. He called. I let it ring. My mother emailed. Can we talk about this? We thought you were being generous. Why are you being so vindictive now? I replied with a scanned copy of the notarized document she forged. No subject line. No message body. Just the evidence. The kind that doesn't raise its voice. A week later, my brother texted. You're seriously kicking a baby out of a home? And I wanted to scream. No. I'm kicking thieves out of mine. But I didn't respond. Instead, I packed a box. One of many. On the lid, I wrote, Let's talk. The court date arrived like a quiet storm. No one from my family showed up. Jonah said it was typical. They probably don't think it's real yet, he told me outside the courtroom. People like that, they live inside their own version of the truth until it's pried from their hands. The judge reviewed our evidence in silence. The forged signature. The mismatched witness information. The notarization dated on a day I was out of the country, with passport stamps to prove it. By the time Jonah was done, the judge didn't need long. Title will be restored to the plaintiff. Any existing occupants are to vacate the property within 30 days. Any further resistance will be considered unlawful detainment. That was it. No drama. No fireworks. Just a gavel and a courtroom colder than I expected. I walked out with a legal order and a hollow sort of relief. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt clean. Jonah filed the paperwork with the county. The deed was returned to my name within the week. I changed the locks the next day. My brother and his pregnant wife were still living there when the notice arrived taped to the door. They had 30 days to leave. No extensions. That night, my phone rang 32 times. I let each one buzz until it died. My parents tried next. They sent a long, winding email about how hurtful this was. How family doesn't do this to each other. How I had humiliated them in front of their church group. No mention of the forgery. No apology. Just a single sentence buried at the end. We didn't think you'd actually fight back. And there it was. The truth. They weren't shocked by what they did. They were shocked I didn't swallow it like always. 2 weeks before the eviction date, I hired movers. I told them to box up everything in the apartment and label it exactly as I instructed. Each box had a name, not the usual kitchen or bedroom. These were deliberate. Box 1, entitlement. Box 2, excuses. Box 3, we thought you'd understand. Box 4, but we're family. Box 5, just until Friday. Box 6, it was just a signature. And so on. 64 boxes in total, all labeled with phrases they had spoken to me over the years, each one a knife, now repackaged and returned. I scheduled delivery to their house, my parents, on a sunny Saturday. They weren't home when it arrived. But the neighbors saw. And when the moving truck parked outside and unloaded a tower of metaphor into their driveway, I imagined the performance hit its final note. I didn't watch. Didn't need to. I was already at an Airbnb, sipping coffee, browsing listings for a real home, when I'd live in alone. They tried to pretend it never happened. That was the funniest part. My mother started sending passive little texts again, like nothing had imploded. Want to come over for dinner Sunday? Your cousin's baby shower is next month. Still your mom no matter what, Red Heart. No mention of the forged deed. No mention of court. No mention of the 64 label boxes that sat in their garage like stacked indictments. Just feigned normalcy. I didn't respond. Not once. The silence grew like ivy. Eventually, the text stopped. But the family spin machine kicked into full gear. I started hearing things filtered through second cousins, old friends, mutuals. They said you're going through something. They said you kicked your brother out just to make a point. They said you're not well. Let them. They built an entire mythology to cope with my absence, because the truth was too inconvenient to fit their narrative. They didn't want to admit I'd been their backbone. That every vacation, every bailout, every holiday feast was funded by my invisible, uncredited labor. Instead, they called me cruel, vindictive, cold. But none of them returned the boxes. And none of them paid me back. I watched, quietly, as the unraveling began. The mortgage I used to cover for my parents? Missed. The truck payments I used to transfer every month? Lapsed. The family phone plan? Cut off. My number was gone. Their lines defaulted. Thanksgiving? Reduced to a potluck in a rented church basement. Apparently, my absence was more expensive than they'd expected. I still remember the text from my aunt after that Thanksgiving. We missed you. It wasn't the same. She didn't know what she was really saying. It wasn't just that I hadn't shown up. It was that they were showing up to life without me. No safety net. No quiet fixer in the background. Just themselves, unbuffered. One by one, the dominoes fell. My brother had to move back in with my parents. The baby came. They named her Grace. I saw the announcement on Facebook. The post had no mention of the apartment. Just a blurry ultrasound and our miracle. I clicked, hide. I had no interest in watching miracles build on theft. Instead, I kept building something else. Something quiet. Something real. The money I used to send them each month? I invested it. The time I used to waste explaining myself? I spent it alone, walking, reading, learning how to exist without performance. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I just removed myself. And it echoed louder than any confrontation ever could. Because the thing they relied on more than my money, more than my compliance, was my need to stay connected. But I had finally severed the cord. And nothing terrifies people more than the person they drained, going silent. The first real holiday alone was Christmas. I thought it would hurt. I bought myself a cheap little tree, pre-lit, the kind you unfold from a box like an umbrella. I made cinnamon rolls from a can, watched bad movies, left my phone on airplane mode. And somewhere in that stillness, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. Not the kind people talk about in Hallmark cards, the real kind. The kind that comes when nobody needs something from you. When no one is twisting your decency into debt. I lit a candle, wrote in a journal, listened to the radiator hiss. And I realized, this is the first Christmas I haven't been tired. Meanwhile, the reports kept coming in sideways. My brother picked up part-time work at a car wash. My mom started a GoFundMe for unexpected medical expenses that suspiciously matched the amount they once borrowed from me for just a small surgery. No one mentioned me by name. I had become a shadow, a sore spot. One cousin told me at a party that my mom now refers to me as that one. I think she's embarrassed, they said. Good. Let embarrassment be the cost of entitlement. Because here's what no one tells you about going no contact, It doesn't just punish them. It heals you. I stopped justifying. I stopped over-explaining. I stopped asking for love from people who only ever saw me as a resource. Instead, I started dating. Slowly. Carefully. His name was Marcus. We met at a bookstore, of all places. He saw me browsing a spine-cracked copy of The Art of Noticing and said, "That one changed how I see everything." I smiled. "I'm trying to see less." He laughed. Not at me, with me. Alongside me. He didn't ask for anything I didn't offer. He didn't need saving. He just listened. We talked about boundaries on the second date. I told him about my family, vaguely, abstractly. He didn't flinch. Just nodded and said, "That sounds like a whole weather system you walked out of." It was the first time I felt seen without being dissected. When I finally invited him to my new place, a real apartment, tiny but fully mine, he brought pastries and didn't touch a single drawer. "I know what it means," he said, "to build something from scorched earth." We didn't fall in love fast. We fell in quiet, which, after a lifetime of noise, was perfect. That spring, I found out I was pregnant. It wasn't part of some master plan, but it didn't feel like chaos either. It felt like a continuation of reclaiming, of redefining, of becoming. I stood in my small kitchen, holding the test, and smiled. Not because I was unafraid, but because for once, fear wasn't tethered to other people's expectations. It was just mine, and I could handle that. I didn't send an announcement. No baby shower. No Facebook post. No Pinterest perfect reveal. Just a quiet decision between me and Marcus. We were having a daughter. We would name her Elise, and we would raise her without noise. She was born in a soft-lit room with one nurse, one doctor, and one partner holding my hand like a lifeline. I didn't call my family. They found out anyway. A mutual tagged me in a photo, me on a park bench, Elise sleeping in a sling against my chest, Marcus beside me, sun-washed and tired and whole. I got a text that night from my mother. "You had a baby? Then, why wouldn't you tell us? And finally, what did we ever do to deserve this?" I stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Then I turned it off. Because I'd already answered that question, not in words, but in silence, in absence, in withholding what they always took for granted, access. I was no longer the family accountant, the emotional sponge, the secret donor. I was a woman who had learned the sacred art of the boundary. And boundaries are not fences. They're mirrors. They show people who they are when they can no longer distort who you are. I don't hate them. I don't wish them harm. I just finally believe I don't owe them my ruin. Sometimes, Marcus will ask me about them. Not to pry, just to understand the silence I carry. "They ever reach out?" he asked once. "Sometimes," I said. "Not as often anymore." He nodded. "Do you miss them?" I thought about it. About birthdays spent fielding guilt trips. About unpaid debts disguised as love. About all the things I built after I stopped performing. "No," I said. "I miss the idea of them. But that idea never really existed. Elise will never meet them." That was a hard decision. But every time I think about what I escaped, the quiet, systemic theft of self, I know I made the right choice. I don't need them to see her. I need her to see me. Whole. Unbroken. Unused. Sometimes I still make lists. But they look different now. Things Elise said that made me laugh. Groceries we need. Dreams I haven't said out loud yet. Books I want to read under a blanket while it rains. And every now and then, I light a candle and sit in the quiet. Not because I'm alone, but because I'm full. Silence has changed sides. It no longer means absence. It means enough.